Hi everyone, this is Shantae, aka Shantizi on Twitter and Instagram. I'm just simply just Shantae Berry. So I'm here with another episode called Shantae's Analysis. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at I am Shantizi, or you can subscribe to my YouTube channel as Shantae Berry. So I'm here with the following, and I'm going to get started with COVID-19 because we're still in the midst of a global pandemic. That's why we're all at home, virtual with our families. So global confirmed cases, according to the Johns Hopkins University of Medicine website, we're at 59,128,645. The global death toll is at 1,395,658. U.S. confirmed cases as follows as 12,414,292. The U.S. death toll is at 257,651. And according to the Johns Hopkins website, the United States has saw more than 142,000 cases. So 142,732 as of today, November 23rd, 2020. So once again, the U.S. has 12.4 confirmed cases and over 257,000 deaths and counting. Now I'm going to draw your attention to the New York Times COVID map. And this is based on the United States of America. The top 10 cases with the top 10 states with the most coronavirus cases, And I read as follows. Texas has the most still. They have surpassed California with a whopping number of 1,182,692 cases. California has 1,128,506. Florida has 945,737. Illinois is now the fourth largest cases, and they're in the reds according to the New York Times COVID map. And you can also subscribe to the New York Times COVID map or the Washington Post COVID map because it's free at 665,865. New York, which was once the epicenter of this, is now at the fifth largest cases at 606,878. Georgia has 434,916. Wisconsin is another state that has a rising surge in COVID infections, and also the infection rate is pretty high at 379,693. Ohio has 363,304. Michigan has 340,223, and North Carolina rounds up that top 10 with 339,672. So New Jersey used to be in the top, and New Jersey's not in the top no more, but every state has rising COVID infections. No state doesn't have decreasing COVID numbers. Every state is in rising COVID numbers, including North Dakota itself at 73,848, and they're in a darker red. So when the governor said the infection rate has gone down and their employment rate has gone down, that's bullshit. So we call bullshit for what it is. Mostly all the country is over 100,000 COVID cases. Nobody has really low cases but the Virgin Islands and Guam and Maine and Hawaii and DC and North Carolina. Most of these other states have rising cases. Every state has rising cases at this point in time. Thank you, Brandon. And of course, we have no national strategy, and we're not going to. I keep saying it every day, but there's no hope. We have no national strategy to combat COVID-19. We really don't. We don't have one. There's no coordinated plan. That's why Joe Biden is the president-elect of the United States. And according to today's news, we now the Trump administration has moved forward with transition. Public pressure does count. So I'm going to read, there's an article somewhere if I can find it, addressed to Joe Biden. So I'm going to read it as follows. It's coming from the General Service Administration. The Honorable Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. And I don't think this is his address. His address is actually in Delaware, but they put Washington, D.C. for whatever reason. I have no understanding why. So here it goes. Dear Mr. Biden, as the administrator of the United States General Service, I have the ability under the Presidential Transition Act of 1963 as amended to make certain post-election resources and services available to assist in the event of the presidential transition. Yeah, okay. C3S USC 102 noted the act. I take this role seriously, and because of recent developments involving legal challenges and certifications of the election results, am transmitting, yeah, okay, and people talk about my diction and way I write shit, okay, this letter today to make those resources and services available to you. Legal challenges. The only one that wanted legal challenges was the incumbent, and because the incumbent got mad because he got mollywopped in the elections, and it was announced that Saturday, that week of election, he wants legal challenges because he's upset, because he know his ass was reaching and losing. I have dedicated much of my life to public service, and I always strive to do what is right. Please know that I came to my decision independently based on the law and available facts. I never directed or indirected pressured by any executive branch official, including those who work at the White House or GSA, with regard to the substance or timing of my decision. Recent development, Biden won. But like the 80 millionth time, right? To be clear, I did not receive any direction to delay my determination. I did, however, receive threats online, my phone, and my email directed at my safety, my family, my staff, and even my pets, in an effort to conserve me into making this determination prematurely. No, you follow at Donald Trump's lead because he had her ass on a tight leash because she is a Trump appointee. And a lot of reporters have reported that, especially in the Washington Post and the New York Times, and they're not lying. Okay. Even in the face of 1,000 threats, I always remain committed to upholding the law. That's bullshit. Contrary to media reports and insinuations, my decisions was not made out of fear or favoritism. Instead, I strongly believe that the statute requires that the GSA administrator ascertain, not impose, the apparent president-elect. Unfortunately, the statute provides no procedure or standards to this process. So I look to President for prior elections involving legal challenges and incomplete counts. She's referring to the election of 2000, which Al Gore demanded that recount, and it was based on Florida, and Florida shit was all the way jacked up. And thanks to Jeb, he jacked that shit up. That election was actually kind of stolen. But this election wasn't stolen. That's the difference. Where was I at? For her to have been forced to ascertain in a huge deal, it is also apparent that Biden is the victor. Exactly my whole point. Exactly, Brandon. Okay. The GSA does not dictate the outcome of legal disputes and recounts, nor does it determine whether such proceedings are reasonable or justified. These are issues that the Constitution, federal law, and state laws leave to the election certification process and decisions by courts of competent jurisdiction. Everybody saw the news and know that Joe Biden was the declared victor. Anybody, even Stevie Wonder could see that. But yeah, okay. I don't think that an agency charged with improving federal procurement and property management should place itself above the constitutionally based election process. I strongly urge Congress to consider amendments to the act. Yeah, funny. As you know, the General Service Administration does not pick or certify the winner of presidential election. Nobody fucking said that, but okay. Instead, the General Service Administrator role under the Act is extremely narrow to make resources and services available in connection with a presidential transition. But she didn't do her job. Okay. As stated, because of recent development involving legal challenges and certifications of election results, I have determined that you may access the post-election resources and services described in Section 3 of the Act upon request. The actual winner of the presidential election will be determined by the electoral process detailed in the Constitution. Joe Biden is the actual winner, and states already certify him as the winner. Where you been, ho? Section 7 of the Act and Public Law 116-159, dated October 1st, 2020, which provides continuing appropriations until December 11, 2020, makes $6,300,000 available to carry out the provisions of Section 3 of the law. In addition, $1 million is authorized pursuant to the Public Law 116-119 to provide appointee orientation sessions and transition directory. Nobody wants them to do the orientation directory. Joe Biden knows what he's doing, and a lot of the people he has are very competent and has been serving in previous Democratic or Republican administrations. Yeah, there's literally curtains on the election. Absolutely. Absolutely. I remind you that Section 6 of the Act imposes reporting requirements of you as a condition of receiving services and funds from the General Service Administration. If there's anything we can do to assist, please contact Ms. Mary D. Gilbert, the Federal Transition Coordinator. Sincerely, Emily W. Murphy. This letter was so bad. Besides, it was poorly written. Excuse me. Was looking for the word. This letter was condescending and it was nasty as fuck. And I didn't like it. And refuses to speak to him. Yes, they all refuse to speak to him because of their dear leader. This makes them look even more embarrassing in public. But for the record, Joe Biden don't want none of your fucking assistance. He just wants briefings virtually because he doesn't want y'all motherfuckers in his face because all y'all bitches have COVID. And half of y'all motherfuckers in there don't like to wear masks. So Joe Biden is not going to Wilmington, from Wilmington to D.C. to be in y'all faces. No, y'all could do a Zoom call with him on briefings. In terms of knowing how to run the government, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are pretty competent of knowing how to run the fucking government. After all, they've been working in public service for more than 30-something. Well, Kamala's been working in public service for 30 years. Joe Biden's been working in public service for 40-something years. And a lot of people that they appoint have been working in government forever. Hello, I've been working in government forever and ever. They do not need a fucking orientation from the Trump administration out of all administrations, because that's the worst fucking administration from both parties. They make George Bush administration look very good. And was I for the Bush administration in terms of their policies? Hell no, because that shit affected me. Their policies suck. But besides my ranting, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris do not need their assistance. They just want briefings. And they want to be able to brief their people that they hire and pay their fucking people. And I'm so happy that John Kerry is in the administration. John Kerry, people think that, John Kerry's more progressive than the progressive candidates that were running for president. The reason why John Kerry didn't win because he was a moderate. No. John Kerry was for progressive change before it was popular. Like for gay marriage in Massachusetts, healthcare. You know who used to work for him? She serves in Congress now. Ayanna Pressley used to work for John Kerry. And she's part of the Progressive Caucus. But he is the climate czar, which is perfect, if I pronounce that right. And that's amazing. Happy that he has that position. Let's see who else is. Yep, she sure did. Let's see who else is in that administration. Because I posted up on my thing. Let's see. Or better yet, let's go to the Biden transition page. Because they have a Twitter account. And they just grew. Their account just went from 1 million. Nice. Okay, so under the Biden and Harris administration, American national security and foreign policy will be led by experienced professionals. Experience, that's the key term. Ready to restore principled leadership on the world stage and dignified leadership at home. Read more. So who they have in the administration is Anthony Blinken. He's going to be the Secretary of State. Alejandro is going to be what's secretary? Oh my God. My eyes are so blind. And you fucking can't see it neither. Shit. Alejandro is going to be the DHS secretary. Yep, tell the other humans to get their shit together. That's right, because he is a son of Cuban refugees. That's absolutely right. Jake Sullivan is going to be the safeguard for he's going to be the national security advisor. I explained about what Anthony Blinken thing is going to be. Yep. And also Linda, what's her name? Linda Thomas Greenfield is going to be the UN ambassador. So it's a black woman there. And I think there's an Hispanic woman there as well. And she is going to be the director of I think it's not Hispanic, it was white woman, of national intelligence. But there's also, they didn't report it, there's also going to be people in the cabinet as well, more people, and the senior administration staff. And it's very diverse. They have Rima Doonan as the deputy director of White House Office of Legislative Affairs, and they have Shawanza, oh my God, I don't want to mess up people's names, at the deputy director of the White House Office of Legislative Affairs. So there are more people to be announced because there's a lot of jobs that need to be filled because let's just say the Trump administration did not fill a lot of jobs within the State Department, within a lot of departments. There's a lot of positions that's empty. So the Biden and Harris administration are going to have to refill that. And Kamala Harris's cabinet has not been picked yet. And it's going to be the first ever director of national intelligence, a DNI person. That's awesome. And people worry about not enough black people in the administration. There's going to be more. There's more announcements that got to be made. There got to be a HUD secretary. There has to be a secretary of education, a secretary of labor, the secretary of interior design. There got to be an EPA director. There's so many people that got to be announced. There has to be another ambassador. There's a lot of ambassador positions as well. There's a whole shitload of them because the Trump administration did not fill a lot of positions in. Also, the press secretary position, that got to be the White House communications director of communications. That has to be announced. There has to be the vice president's cabinet, the second husband's cabinet. All of that shit got to be announced. They got to hire people. Kamala needs a chief of staff. She needs the same shit that Joe Biden needs because the vice president has aides as well. Yep, it's so many announcements. So everybody's like, there's so many white people. Like, there's not enough people to be announced. And for the record, Rahm Emanuel is not going to be part of the administration. Not just only because of the Laquan McDaniel, which that disqualifies him automatically. He don't really care for Kamala. And you don't need someone in the administration that don't like your vice president, that don't like your number two. Because he don't like her. That's the vibe that I got from him during the primaries and during the elections. He don't like her. And so why would you want somebody like that didn't really care for her, even when she was under consideration for being the vice president? I would not want that garbage in my administration. His brother's on the transition team, but doesn't mean he's going to be the HHS secretary, which that got to be announced too. And it might not even be him. You sit on the transition team, but doesn't mean you're going to be part of the transition. And that's just what it is. So, yeah. So progressives need to get their panties out the bunch. And speaking, I want to move on to a topic. So today, if you follow me on Twitter, I was attacked for one little fucking comment that did not really attack anybody, but told the truth. So I'm going to go to my page because it seemed like everybody had all this smoke for me today. Like all of it. Like all of the smoke. Eddie Murphy has a new wife. What? Okay, so I said this and it got people upset. So I'm going to read it. As I mentioned in my thread, because I had a thread, President-elect Biden and Vice President-elect Harris are more progressive than Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, and that's the truth. And that is, depending the laws that they passed while they were in the Senate. Well, Joe Biden was not in the Senate at the same time as Kamala Harris was. He sworn her into the Senate when he was still the Vice President of the United States at the time. But they both passed legislation that was intersectional slightly. Violence Against Women's Act, even though we didn't like the crime bill, but the Violence Against Women's Act was in the bill. That was kind of intersectional because it helped women that was getting beat up by their fucking boyfriends. Like, they got kicked the shit out of their boyfriends. Also, the assault on the law to ban assault weapons, that was passed. The Paris Climate Accord, which he was part of that during his tenure as the vice president of the United States. Yep, that was passed too. So, yeah. And Kamala Harris never really described herself as a centrist. I don't even think Kamala labels herself as none of those things. Kamala Harris is just like, she's just a person that just is for the people. Her 5 words: I am Kamala Harris for the people. And I don't think Joe Biden even, I think actual Democrats really don't really define themselves on the ideological spectrum, because they just worry about serving their constituents. It's mostly the younger progressives, like around my age. The younger Democrats around my age who define themselves, or some of them are just independents that define themselves on the ideological spectrum. Me, it would be progressive and liberal, not really centrist and not moderate, because like I am mostly for bold ideas. One for actual Medicare expansion and Medicaid expansion, and also a single payer option. But the difference is to address health disparities. And I believe, honestly, Elizabeth Warren tried a little bit, but it's not communicated in her legislation or in her ideas, because she doesn't really know how to address some of the Black issues a little bit, and definitely not Bernie Sanders. And it's not me being shady, it's me being real. Like, if you look at Bernie Sanders' legislative record, it does not one bit address race. And that's problematic for those who supporting that are Latinx, whether they're Black Latinos or white Latinos, whether they define themselves, or mixed, and or Black Americans that do support him. I mean, he has a hard time. And when it's the question, when it comes to race, what he does is lump it to economics and class. And that's not addressing systemic racism. So addressing systemic racism is a very hard question that even some Black people themselves can't even sit through. You know, they really have a hard time sitting through it, because you got to go through the bad wounds in order to get to those good wounds. Yep, and that's another thing. Joe Biden wasn't really into the LGBT community. He really didn't really speak on it too much, even though he wasn't really protesting it and wasn't like banned them, but it was certain stances he was not for. But when he became the vice president of the United States and see that how they were treated later in the tenure, he was one of the major elected officials who supported marriage equality along with President Obama. And as for Kamala Harris has been day one with the LGBTQ community, and it goes back to her career as a DA of San Francisco. So, and even Nikki Solis even said that in her interviews, couple of her interviews that she had on major TV and on, other progressive platforms. So they both, you're right, they both celebrate Trans Day, which I haven't seen Bernie Sanders even honestly speak at any LGBTQ any forums, not even the one on CNN during the presidential primaries. I saw Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, Julian Castro, Elizabeth Warren, Pete Buttigieg, I think Andrew Yang, Beto O'Rourke. It was like a couple of them, and it was not like a whole plethora, but the main ones I named are the two president and vice president, Elizabeth Warren, Julian Castro. Oh, Cory Booker. Yeah, Cory Booker, and who else? Beto O'Rourke and Andrew Yang. And I think I said Pete Buttigieg if I've not said that, but they were the ones that spoke at the CNN LGBTQ Human Rights Forum. They did. And of course, Kamala Harris received a heckler. She did, but she addressed the issue. She had the right answers to say. So when I hear folks criticize her and criticize her record with LGBTQ, I was like, you guys are dumb. Because even people that argue with Kamala on certain policies, the one thing they all said, she was progressive on that issue. Hard body. But with these progressives, though, what makes me so pissed off with them is they say they're for systemic change and they're allies to black and brown people, more so to black people. But when you call them out, when you call one of their champions out, Bernie Sanders, on why did he not speak up on this issue or why he's silent on this issue, they always come in, well, he marched in with Martin Luther King. That does not matter. How many years ago was that? That was what, over 50 something years ago. What has he done post the civil rights movement is what I'm worried about. Because obviously you didn't do jack shit. And when he speaks about race, and it's like it's tone deaf. He lumps it to class, and as a black person in America, I don't want to hear. No. Dress the hard truths. We have systemic racism not only in criminal justice, not only in economics, but in affordable housing and education. And jobs. Not on economics. Yeah, it's and that's another thing. She don't acknowledge black. What is black, huh? You're from the most diverse city. Well, you're from the most diverse city. 2.6 black people as of last year in New York City alone. 2.6 black people. Talking about what is black? And half of the Latinos that live in New York define themselves as black. So I got some really nasty responses from the real post. Someone said, I am stuck on another timeline, aka, why did you come on my fucking timeline anyway? Another is this has to be the worst take I've seen this month. Once again, what has Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders have done to push progressive policies that will help black and brown people in this community? And I'm not talking about economics of class. I'm talking about dealing with the hard truths. How you address systemic racism in all institutions. They don't have a fucking answer for that. And by the way, some of Elizabeth Warren plans were copycats of Kamala Harris's. Do you know that much of their records and activities search are the internet? I want to know what they did to advance black and brown people, and no one has a fucking answer for it. Another, it's not the truth. So I said, show the proof that Kamala Harris and Bernie Sanders record with putting out, and I meant to say out, progressive policies that address the systemic racism. If you can show those receipts, why quote my tweet? Another is, maybe she ran a bad campaign. Oh, that was something else. Another, apparently progressive means right wing. I guess they don't understand the word progressivism, but let me just read the definition. I know this is kind of like a clear-eyed, drear-eye kind of live, but I'm getting annoyed. Hey, Jamila, I'm getting super freaking annoyed with these so-called progressives, which some of them are not real progressive. If you was real progressive, you would not be attacking people that told the truth. So progressivism is support for advocacy or social reform. Once again, progressivism is a noun and is support for or advocacy of social reform. Social reform includes what's that? Besides health, Medicare and Medicaid health expansion, let's see, education reform, STEM research and education reform, SAT, school choice. Also, the 1619 project incorporated into curriculum. expansion of curriculum, that's progressive. Extended after school. I live in New York City. There's a lot of kids that need after school. Free after school. And that's something that Kamala Harris advocated for, extended after school in all public schools in the United States of America. Let's see. Affordable housing, access to affordable housing in different areas. Mayor de Blasio done that in my city, despite some of the shit I've been pissed off about him about. But one thing he's been consistent on is affordable housing. Affordable housing in other suburban communities too. That's another. Let's see. In terms of systemic racism and jobs, having racial training, not just putting people in high positions, but having racial training, revising your ethic rules and your moral views and your diversity and inclusion stuff at jobs, because I used to work in human resources. I mean, I can go on and on and on about this shit. Progressivism doesn't mean climate change economics. It doesn't mean, and Medicare. It doesn't mean that. There's more to it. And you guys ain't, and I don't cut it. And that's why I said Bernie Sanders' stance is not, because just because he put out bills based on addressing the financial stuff, not even financial systemic racism, but addressing the working class, doesn't mean he acknowledged systemic racism. He doesn't. People may get mad for what I said, but I said what I said. It's the truth. You could go to congress.gov and look the shit up your fucking self. But enough of my rant with them. And I would like to say this. We're living in a time where shit is crazy. We're living under 4 or 5 crises going on. And that includes a constitutional crisis besides this pandemic and besides all other things. We're living in a time where people believe conspiracy theories before facts, not doing enough research when there's clearly a lot of research out there that's on no Western government will stop systemic racism. There's policies. We can all work together, but it has to start with white people. Also, we're living in times where people are too lazy to do research. People are too lazy. Thank God I take time, my spare time, to do research and do adequate research. When you don't do research, what happens is you become a stupid motherfucker in all conversations. Well, people don't love themselves these days, so that shit is dead. But anyway, like I said, do your fucking research. Just as plain and simple. It's not hard. Read a book. You can't go to the library right now, so you do your research online. Quick Google search. Don't go to Wikipedia. Go to history.com, pbs.org. Stuff that has primary and slightly secondary resources. That will do you some justice. But of course, wash your hands. I didn't read the Mueller report, but I heard it's like 400 pages. I have to get it. Somebody was supposed to send it to me, and I never got it. But until then, wash your hands, wear your mask, social distance, and all that above. It's 12:15, and I'm tired. Well, until then, you have a good night.